The waitress was clearing tables during the lunch rush when she heard it. A desperate cry that cut through the noise of the busy restaurant like a knife. And when she turned, she saw the most feared man in the city standing frozen in the middle of the dining room, holding a screaming infant at arm's length with the expression of someone who had just been handed a live grenade. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have predicted as she instinctively crossed that room and lifted the crying baby from his arms without asking permission, was that this single moment of maternal instinct would make her the only person Nico Valentino, the ruthless boss of the Valentino crime family, would trust with his most precious secret. And before I tell you how a minimum wage waitress became the guardian of a mafia heir, how she discovered that the most dangerous man in the city was also the most devoted father, and how she fell in love with a man who could order deaths before breakfast but couldn't figure out how to change a diaper, you need to understand who Maya Chun was before that Tuesday afternoon that changed everything. The smell of grease and burnt coffee had seeped so deeply into Maya's clothes that she could still smell it even after washing them 3 times. A permanent reminder of the 4 years she'd spent serving overpriced mediocre food at Salvatore's, an Italian restaurant in the financial district that catered to businessmen who left terrible tips and felt entitled to be rude. Maya was 28 years old, but felt 40 most days, with perpetually tired eyes, hands rough from constant washing, and a permanent ache in her lower back from carrying heavy trays for 10-hour shifts. She had straight black hair she always wore in a practical ponytail, almond-shaped brown eyes that her mother used to say were her best feature before cancer took her 3 years ago, and a small frame that made customers constantly underestimate her strength. She'd grown up in San Francisco's Chinatown, daughter of immigrants who had worked themselves to exhaustion running a small restaurant, teaching Maya from childhood that hard work was the only way forward, that education was everything, that family honor mattered more than personal happiness. She'd been a good student, had gotten into UC Berkeley on a partial scholarship, had studied social work because she wanted to help people, wanted to make a difference in ways her parents never could. But then her father had a stroke during her junior year, and her mother got the diagnosis 6 months later, and suddenly Maya was drowning in medical bills and funeral costs and the complete destruction of every plan she'd ever made. She'd dropped out of college to work full-time, first at her parents' restaurant until it closed, and at Salvatore's, where the pay was slightly better and the customers were significantly worse. 4 years of smiling through exhaustion, of pretending not to hear degrading comments, of going home to her tiny studio apartment in the Tenderloin, and wondering if this was really all there was to life. She'd given up on dreams of finishing her degree, given up on dating because who had the energy? Given up on pretty much everything except getting through each day without breaking down. She sent money to her younger brother back in China, who was studying engineering. Money she couldn't afford, but sent anyway, because family obligation didn't disappear just because you were struggling. And if you're wondering why I'm telling you all this about Maya's difficult life, why it matters that she was exhausted and broke and had sacrificed everything for family, it's because you need to understand exactly what kind of person she was when that moment came. She made a split-second decision that would reveal her character in ways nothing else could. Pause here and leave a like if you've ever felt trapped by circumstances, if you've ever had to give up your dreams to take care of family. Because Maya represents millions of people who are just trying to survive while carrying burdens no one else sees. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of slow shift between lunch and dinner where the restaurant was maybe a quarter full, mostly regulars and a few tourists who'd wandered in. Maya was refilling water glasses and trying to calculate if she had enough for rent this month when the door opened and the entire restaurant went silent. Not the gradual quiet of conversation winding down, but the immediate, terrified silence of prey animals sensing a predator. She looked up and felt her breath catch because everyone in the city knew that face, even if they'd never seen it in person. Nico Valentino, head of the most powerful crime family on the West Coast, a man whose name was spoken in whispers, who controlled everything from legitimate businesses to the darkest corners of the underworld. He was probably in his mid-30s, tall and powerfully built, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than Maya made in 6 months, with dark hair swept back from a face that was almost cruelly handsome, all sharp angles and hard lines. But what made the entire restaurant stare wasn't his obvious danger or his expensive clothes. It was the infant carrier he was holding in front of him like a shield, and the screaming baby inside it who was clearly having a complete meltdown. Nico Valentino looked absolutely terrified, more scared than Maya imagined he'd ever looked facing rival criminals or police investigations. His eyes were wide, his jaw tight, and he was holding that carrier at arm's length as if the baby might explode. The restaurant owner, Salvatore himself, came rushing forward with the expression of a man trying not to have a heart attack. "Mr. Valentino," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "what an honor. Your usual table? Please, just—" Nico Valentino cut him off, his voice rough with desperation that seemed completely at odds with his reputation. "I need to feed her. The nanny quit this morning, just walked out, and I don't know what I'm doing. She won't stop crying, and I don't know if she's hungry or sick or dying, and I have a meeting in 20 minutes that I can't miss, but I can't bring a screaming baby, and I don't know what to do." It was the most un-mob boss-like speech Maya had ever heard, and it was clearly genuine panic, not manipulation or performance. The restaurant remained frozen, everyone too terrified to move or help, because helping a mob boss's baby seemed like the kind of thing that could get complicated very quickly. But Maya, who had spent her entire childhood helping in her parents' restaurant, who had practically raised her younger cousins while her aunts worked, who had instincts that bypassed fear when she saw someone genuinely struggling, moved without thinking. She crossed the restaurant, aware of every eye on her, and stopped in front of Nico Valentino. "May I?" she asked simply, holding out her arms. "Nico." Valentino looked at her like she was an angel sent from heaven. "Please," he said, practically shoving the carrier into her arms. "Please, I'll pay anything, just make her stop crying." Maya set the carrier on the nearest table and lifted the baby out. And the moment she did, the moment she cradled that tiny screaming human against her chest and started the automatic rocking motion that was pure muscle memory, she understood the problem. The baby was maybe 3 months old, a beautiful little girl, with dark hair and her father's sharp features, and she was wearing her outfit backward, the tag scratching against her delicate skin. Someone tried to dress her wrong, Maya said matter-of-factly, not looking at Nico Valentino's face, focusing only on the baby. "And her diaper's on too tight. No wonder she's upset." She looked around the restaurant, saw only men staring with various expressions of shock and fear, and made a decision. "I need to take her to the bathroom to fix this," she told Nico. "Valentino, is that okay?" "Yes," he said immediately. "Yes, whatever you need. I'll be right here." Maya carried the still-crying baby to the women's bathroom, very aware that she was now alone with a mob boss's child, that this could be interpreted as kidnapping, that she was probably making the stupidest decision of her life. But the baby was uncomfortable and needed help, and Maya's instincts didn't care about the father's profession. She gently undressed the infant, fixed the outfit, changed the diaper properly, and spent a few minutes just rocking and humming an old Chinese lullaby her mother used to sing. And slowly, miraculously, the crying stopped, replaced by curious dark eyes studying Maya's face. When Maya emerged from the bathroom 10 minutes later, carrying a now calm and alert baby, the restaurant was still silent. But Nico Valentino looked like he might cry with relief. "She's okay?" he asked, his voice rough. "She's perfect," Maya said, and she meant it because the baby really was beautiful. She was just uncomfortable. Her outfit was unwrong, and her diaper was too tight. "Has she eaten?" Nico Valentino's face went blank. "I don't know," he admitted. "The nanny usually handles all that. I know I'm supposed to feed her every few hours, but I don't know when she last ate or how much, or if it's the right kind, or if I'm supposed to warm it up, or just what temperature, or—" He was spiraling, and Maya made another decision that was probably stupid but felt necessary. "I'm on shift until 6, she said. "But if you need help for the next few hours, I could watch her. There's a quiet booth in the back where she could nap, and I could feed her when she's hungry. I've taken care of lots of babies. I know what I'm doing. Comment now telling me if you would trust a stranger with your child in a moment of desperation, or if you think Maya is being reckless, because what happens next is going to test both of them in ways neither expected." Nico Valentino stared at her for a long moment, and Maya could see him doing calculations, weighing trust against need, danger against desperation. Finally, he said, "What's your name, Maya-chun?" She replied. "And I promise I'll take good care of her." "What's her name?" "Lucia," Nico Valentino said, and his voice softened in a way that transformed his entire face. "Her name is Lucia. She's 3 months old. Her mother died in childbirth, and I've been completely lost ever since. The nanny was the 5th one in 3 months. They all quit. Because of who I am, because they're scared. And I don't know how to do this alone, but I have to because she's all I have left of the woman I loved." It was more honesty than Maya expected, more vulnerability than she'd ever imagined from someone with his reputation. "Okay," she said gently. Lucia is a beautiful name. Why don't you tell me her routine, what formula she drinks, when she last ate, and then you can go to your meeting. I'll keep her safe, I promise. And Mr. Valentino, she looked him directly in the eyes. I don't care who you are or what you do. Right now, you're just a scared father who needs help, and that baby deserves to be comfortable and safe. That's all that matters to me. Nico Valentino's expression did something complicated, shifted through several emotions before settling on something that might have been gratitude or might have been the beginning of respect. Thank you, he said simply. Thank you, Maya-chan. He spent the next 15 minutes giving Maya instructions, pulling out bottles and formula from a designer diaper bag that probably cost more than her car, explaining Lucia's schedule with the detail of someone who was trying very hard to be a good father, despite being completely overwhelmed. And then he was leaving. But not before giving Maya a business card with a number on it and saying, if anything happens, anything at all, call me immediately. And Maya, he hesitated, I'm trusting you with the most important thing in my life. Please, don't make me regret it. I won't, Maya promised, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. Share this video if you believe in helping people when they need it, regardless of who they are. Because Maya is about to discover that being trusted by Nico Valentino comes with complications she never imagined. The next 3 hours were surreal. Maya kept working her shift, but with baby Lucia secured in a carrier attached to her chest, the restaurant's owner too terrified of Nico Valentino to object. The other customers stared but said nothing, creating a bubble of strange silence around Maya as she took orders and delivered food with an infant literally strapped to her. Lucia was an easy baby once she was comfortable, sleeping peacefully against Maya's chest, waking once to eat, and then settling back down with barely a fuss. And Maya found herself talking to the baby, telling her stories in Mandarin like her mother used to do, feeling something in her chest that had been frozen for years start to thaw. When Nico Valentino returned at exactly 6 p.m., walking through the door with the tension of someone expecting disaster, Maya was sitting in the back booth with Lucia awake and happy in her arms, making those cute baby noises that meant contentment. Nico Valentino stopped dead, staring at them, and Maya saw something in his expression that looked almost like pain. She's perfect, Maya said, standing carefully. Fed her twice, changed her 3 times, and she's been an angel. You're doing a good job, Mr. Valentino. She's healthy and beautiful and clearly loved. You just need some help figuring out the logistics, that's all. Nico Valentino crossed to them and gently took Lucia. And Maya saw how his entire body relaxed the moment he had his daughter in his arms, how his face softened into something approaching tenderness. Thank you, he said, looking at Maya. I don't even know how to thank you properly. You saved me today. Literally saved me. I have another meeting. Tonight, another tomorrow morning, a whole week of things I can't cancel, and no nanny and no idea what to do. He paused, then said something that clearly cost him. I need to hire you. Maya blinked. What? I need to hire you as Lucia's nanny, Nico Valentino clarified. I'll pay you 5 times whatever you make here. You'll have weekends off, full benefits, and all you have to do is take care of my daughter when I'm working. You clearly know what you're doing, and more importantly, she responded to you. She was calm with you in a way she hasn't been with anyone except the first nanny, and that woman quit after 2 weeks because she was scared of me. Please, Maya, I'm desperate, and I trust you, and I don't trust anyone. Maya's mind was racing. 5 times her salary would be life-changing money. She could pay off her debts, help her brother, maybe even save enough to finish her degree. But working for a mob boss meant entering a world she knew nothing about, meant potential danger, meant complications she couldn't predict. But then she looked at baby Lucia, at those innocent dark eyes, and thought about a motherless child growing up with a father who loved her but was drowning, and the decision made itself. Okay, she said. Yes, I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them, Nico Valentino said immediately. I need to know Lucia's safety comes first. Always, Maya said. That means if there's any danger from your work, any threat, you tell me so I can protect her. 1, need authority to make decisions about her care without having to check with you every time. And I need you to promise that whatever else you do, whatever your business is, I won't be involved. I'm here for Lucia, not for anything else. Nico Valentino studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Agreed. All of it. You have complete authority over Lucia's care. You'll be kept informed of any security issues, and you'll never be asked to involve yourself in my business. You're her nanny, nothing more, nothing less. When can you start? Subscribe to Karma Stories now if you want to see how. Maya's new job as nanny to a mob boss's baby transforms her life in ways she never expected, because this is just the beginning. Tomorrow, Maya said, then reconsidered. Actually, tonight. If you have that meeting and no one to watch her, I can come tonight. Give me your address. The relief on Nico Valentino's face was almost comical. He pulled out his phone and sent her details, then paused. You need to understand. Something, Maya. My home has security. A lot of security. Armed guards, cameras, the whole setup. Might be intimidating, but it's necessary. I have enemies who would love to get their hands on Lucia, and I can't let that happen. I understand, Maya said, though her stomach tightened with nervousness. I'll be there at 8. Nico Valentino's home turned out to be a massive estate in Pacific Heights, the kind of property that screamed old money and serious power. Maya pulled up in her beat-up Toyota, feeling incredibly out of place as security guards checked her ID against a list and then escorted her through gates that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. The house itself was stunning, all modern architecture and floor-to-ceiling windows. But what struck Maya most was how it felt like a fortress, with guards positioned at every entrance and enough security equipment to protect a small country. This is Lucia's home, Maya thought, and felt sad that a baby had to grow up in a place that felt more like a military compound than a house. Nico Valentino met her at the door, still in his suit, but with his tie loosened and exhaustion written across his face. Thank you for coming, he said, and he sounded genuinely grateful. Let me show you Lucia's room, explain her routine, introduce you to the household staff. He led her through the house, and Maya was struck by the contrast between the fortress-like security outside and the warmth inside. The nursery was beautiful, decorated in soft yellows and whites, filled with toys and books and everything a baby could need. But it was also clearly the room of a father trying too hard, buying everything because he didn't know what was actually useful, creating comfort through excess because he didn't know how else to show love. Over the next 2 hours, Nico Valentino gave Maya a complete rundown of Lucia's needs, his schedule, the household routines, and Maya watched him carefully, saw how his hands were gentle when he touched his daughter, how his voice softened when he spoke about her, how, despite all his power and danger, he was completely vulnerable when it came to this tiny human he'd been left to raise alone. When he finally left for his meeting, giving Lucia one last kiss and thanking Maya again, Maya settled into the rocking chair and looked around the opulent nursery with mixed feelings. This was going to be complicated, she knew. But as Lucia snuggled against her, content and safe, Maya thought maybe it would be worth it. The first week was an adjustment. Maya moved from her studio apartment to a guest suite in Nico Valentino's house, a room bigger than her entire previous living space, with her own bathroom and more comfort than she'd experienced in years. She established routines with Lucia, learned the baby's preferences and personality, and discovered that she genuinely loved this job in a way she'd never loved waitressing. Lucia was a sweet baby, responsive and curious and caring for. Her felt more like joy than work. But Maya also had to navigate the strange reality of working in a mob boss's home, of armed guards who nodded respectfully when she passed, of household staff who treated her with deference because she was trusted with Valentino's daughter. And then there was Nico Valentino himself. He was around more than Maya expected for someone supposedly running a criminal empire, coming home between meetings to check on Lucia, hovering in doorways to watch Maya work with an expression she couldn't quite read. They developed a routine of evening handoffs where he'd take Lucia for an hour before bed, giving Maya a break and giving him time with his daughter. And during those handoffs, they talked. At first, it was just about Lucia, her development and needs and milestones. But gradually their conversations expanded, became more personal, revealed the humans underneath their circumstances. Maya learned that Nico Valentino's wife had been his childhood sweetheart, the daughter of another crime family, and that her death during childbirth had destroyed something in him that he was still trying to rebuild. She learned that he was trying to transition the family business toward legitimate enterprises, that he wanted Lucia to grow up with choices he never had, that he was trapped between loyalty to tradition and desperate desire for something better. And Nico Valentino learned that Maya had given up everything for family obligation, that she had dreams, deferred but not destroyed, that she was stronger than her small frame suggested and kinder than her circumstances should have allowed. Leave a like if you're seeing the connection forming between them, because what happens next is going to force both Maya and Nico Valentino to confront feelings they're not ready to admit. It was 3 weeks into Maya's employment when everything shifted. She was giving Lucia her evening bath, singing softly in Mandarin while the baby splashed and giggled when she heard raised voices from downstairs. Security breach, she heard one of the guards shout, and then gunfire, the unmistakable crack of weapons that made Maya's blood freeze. She grabbed Lucia out of the bath, wrapped her in a towel, and ran to the nursery panic room that Nico Valentino had shown her on her first day. She sealed them inside, holding a now outcrying Lucia close, and waited in terror as sounds of violence echoed through the house. 20 minutes later, the panic room door opened to reveal Nico Valentino, blood on his shirt and fury in his eyes, but alive and moving. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, crossing to them immediately. "Is Lucia hurt?" "We're fine," Maya managed to say, though she was shaking. "What happened?" "Rival family sent a hit team," Nico Valentino said, gently taking Lucia and checking her over, despite Maya's assurance. "They're dealt with now. All dead or captured." "But Maya," he looked at her intently, "you did exactly right. Getting Lucia to safety was perfect. You kept her safe when it mattered most." Maya felt tears start to fall, the delayed reaction of terror catching up with her. "I thought," she couldn't finish the sentence. "I thought they might get to her. I know," Nico Valentino said softly. "I know. But they didn't because you protected her. You did your job perfectly." He reached out and gently wiped away her tears with his thumb, and the gesture was so intimate, so unexpected from this man of violence, that Maya felt something shift in her. "Jess, you're safe now," he said, "both of you. I promise." That night, after Lucia was finally asleep and Maya should have gone to her room, she found herself in the kitchen making tea with shaking hands. Nico Valentino appeared in the doorway, now cleaned up and changed, and without asking permission joined her. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "This is what I meant about danger. This is why nannies quit, why people don't want to be associated with me. I understand if you want to leave. I'll pay you for a full year, even if you quit tomorrow, and I'll make sure you're protected, relocated if necessary. It's not fair to ask you to stay in this environment." Maya poured 2 cups of tea, handed him one, and met his eyes steadily. "I'm not leaving," she said. "Lucia needs consistency, needs someone who loves her, and I do. I love that baby, Mr. Valentino. Today was terrifying, yes, but it doesn't change the fact that she needs me and I need this job and we're good for each other. I'm staying. Unless you want me to go?" "I don't want you to go," Nico Valentino said, and there was something raw in his voice. "I haven't wanted anything as much as I want you to stay in a very long time. You're the best thing that's happened to Lucia since she was born. The best thing that's happened to me since Maria died. You've brought something back into this house that I thought was gone forever. Call me Nico," he added. "Please. Mr. Valentino sounds too formal for someone who's saved my daughter's life and my sanity." "Okay, Nico," Maya said, and the name felt intimate on her tongue. "And you can call me Maya. We're past formalities at this point, I think." They smiled at each other, and something passed between them. An acknowledgement of connection that went beyond employer and employee, that hinted at possibilities neither was ready to name. Share this video if you believe in love that grows from trust and shared purpose, because Maya and Nico are about to discover that the most unexpected people can become the most important. The months that followed established a new normal. Maya continued caring for Lucia, who was thriving under consistent attention and love. The baby was hitting all her milestones early, constantly alert and curious. And Maya documented everything in a journal for Nico to read, wanting him to feel connected to his daughter's development even when business kept him away. But what changed more dramatically was the relationship between Maya and Nico. They started having dinner together most nights after Lucia went to sleep, conversations that ranged from light to profound, sharing stories and perspectives, and gradually building intimacy that had nothing to do with physical attraction and everything to do with genuine compatibility. Nico talked about his plans to legitimize the family business, his frustration with traditions he couldn't easily break, his fear that Lucia would grow up ashamed of her father. Maya talked about her parents, her culture, her dreams of finishing her degree and maybe becoming a therapist, her guilt about her brother and the family she'd left behind in China, and slowly, so slowly, neither quite noticed when it happened, they fell in love. Not the dramatic, explosive kind of love from movies, but the quiet, steady kind that builds from respect and trust and the intimacy of sharing daily life. It was in the way Nico started coming home earlier just to have more time with Maya and Lucia, in the way Maya started dressing a bit nicer and caring more about her appearance, in the small touches that became more frequent, the looks that lasted too long, the tension that built every time they were alone together. Nona Valentino, Nico's grandmother who visited weekly to see Lucia, noticed first. "That nanny of yours is in love with you," she said bluntly, one Sunday afternoon. "And unless I'm losing my eyesight along with my youth, you're in love with her too. So what are you waiting for?" "I can't," Nico said, watching through the window as Maya played with Lucia in the garden. "She deserves better than this life, Nona. She deserves someone safe, someone normal, someone who can give her the peaceful future she should have had before circumstances forced her into service. She deserves better than a widower with a criminal past and a target on his back." "She deserves better than you mean?" Nona asked shrewdly. "Or you're scared that if you offer her your heart she might say no?" "Both," Nico admitted. "I'm terrified, Nona. I lost Maria, lost the love of my life, and I barely survived it. If I let myself love Maya and something happens to her because of me, I won't survive it again. And if she doesn't feel the same way, if I've imagined this connection, I'll lose her entirely, because how can she keep working for me after that?" "Then you're a coward," Nona said simply. "And my grandson is not a coward. You take risks every day in business. You face danger without hesitation, but you're afraid to tell a woman you love." "Her? Pathetic. That girl has turned down safer, easier options to stay here with you and Lucia. She stays through attacks and threats and danger because she loves you both. And if you can't see that, you're more blind than I thought." Subscribe to Karma Stories now, because what happens next is going to test Maya and Nico in ways that will force them to finally admit what they've been feeling, and the stakes have never been higher. The test came from an unexpected direction. Maya's brother called from China with news that their aunt had died, leaving behind 2 young cousins who needed family to take them in. "I can't do it," her brother said desperately. "I'm still in school. I have no money, no space. But you, Maya, you have a good job now. Could you take them? Just until I graduate and can help?" Maya felt torn. Taking in 2 more children meant asking Nico for space in his home, meant expanding her responsibilities far beyond what he'd hired her for, meant potentially losing this job if he said no. But family was family, and these children had no one else. She found Nico in his study that evening and explained the situation, fully prepared for him to refuse. To tell her she could take time off to go to China and sort things out, but couldn't bring additional children into his home. Instead, Nico listened carefully, asked questions about the children's ages and needs, and then said, "Bring them here. We have the space, and Lucia could use playmates as she grows. I'll handle the visas and paperwork. Get them here as quickly as possible." "And Maya," he looked at her with an expression that made her heart race, "your family is important. Okay, anyone important to you is important to me." The simple statement carried weight that went far beyond practicality. Maya felt tears start to form. "You'd do that? You'd let me bring my cousins here? Let them live in your home? Disrupt your life even more than I already have?" "You haven't disrupted my life," Nico said softly. "You've saved it. You've brought warmth and laughter and purpose back to this house. You've made Lucia happier than I could have alone. And you've made me," he paused, "you've made me feel things I thought died with Maria. So yes, Maya, bring your family here. Let me help you the way you've helped me. Let me be there for you the way you've been there for Lucia and me. It's the least I can do." But it wasn't the least. It was everything, and Maya knew it. She crossed the space between them without thinking and hugged him, breaking every professional boundary they'd maintained. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, Nico." Nico wrapped his arms around her slowly, carefully, as if afraid she might break or disappear. "We take care of each other," he said quietly. "That's what family does. And you're family now, Maya. Whether you work for me or not, whether you stay or go, you and Lucia and now your cousins, you're all family. It's what Maria would have wanted, what I want, what I need." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, and Maya felt safer than she had since her mother died. Felt like she'd finally found a place where she belonged. When they pulled apart, Nico kept his hands on her shoulders and looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Maya, I need to tell you something," he started, but was interrupted by one of his men appearing in the doorway, with urgent news about a business situation that needed immediate attention. The moment broke, and Nico had to leave, but Maya spent the rest of the night wondering what he'd been about to say, hoping it was what her heart desperately wanted to hear. Leave a comment telling me if you think Maya should confess her feelings first, or wait for Nico to make the move. because the tension between them is about to reach a breaking point. Maya's cousins arrived 2 weeks later, two shell-shocked children who spoke no English and clung to Maya like lifelines. Wei was 8, and Mei was 6, both traumatized by their mothers, death, and the upheaval of moving to a foreign country. Maya threw herself into caring for them, enrolling them in school, teaching them English, helping them adjust, and Nico surprised everyone by being incredibly patient and kind with the children, making space for them in his home, never complaining about the noise or chaos they brought. He hired a tutor to help with their English and arranged for a therapist to help with their trauma. He made sure they had everything they needed and never once treated them like burdens or inconveniences. And watching him with her cousins, seeing how he went out of his way to make them feel safe and welcome, Maya fell even more deeply in love with this man who the world thought was a monster. One evening, about a month after the cousins arrived, Maya was putting all 3 children to bed when Wei asked her in Mandarin, "Is Mr. Nico going to be our uncle? Because he acts like family. He takes care of us like Daddy used to." Maya felt her throat tighten. "I don't know, sweetheart," she said honestly. "But he's a good man, isn't he?" "The best," Wei agreed. "You should marry him, Mayaji. Then we could really be a family forever." Out of the mouths of babes, Maya thought, but didn't respond because how could she explain the complications to an 8-year-old? That night, unable to sleep, she went downstairs for water and found Nico sitting in the dark living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at nothing. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked, sitting beside him on the couch. He turned to look at her, and in the dim light she could see exhaustion and something else in his eyes. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said bluntly, the whiskey apparently loosening his usual control. "I know I shouldn't. I know it's inappropriate and complicated and probably wrong, but Maya, I can't stop. You're the first thing I think about in the morning and the last thing at night. When I'm in meetings, I'm wondering what you and Lucia are doing. When I'm dealing with business, I'm calculating how quickly I can get home to see you. I'm in love with you, Maya-chan. Completely, stupidly, inappropriately in love with you." Maya felt like her heart might explode. "I love you too," she whispered. "I've loved you for months. I tried not to, tried to keep it professional, but Nico, you're the best man I've ever known. You're strong and protective, and so gentle with Lucia and my cousins and me. You've given me a family and a home and purpose, and I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." Nico set down his whiskey and reached for her hands. "I'm dangerous," he said seriously. "Loving me means living with constant risk. It means security guards and panic rooms, and the possibility that enemies might target you to get to me. It means complications and danger and a life that's far from normal. Are you sure that's what you want?" "I'm sure," Maya said firmly. "I've seen your world, Nico. I've lived in it for months. And yes, it's dangerous and complicated, but it's also full of love and loyalty and family. You're trying to build something better, trying to give Lucia a different future. I want to be part of that. I want to help you build it. I want to be with you, danger and all." Nico pulled her into his arms and kissed her, finally, and it was everything Maya had imagined and more. It was gentle but passionate, sweet but desperate, full of months of longing and the promise of future together. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Nico said, "Marry me. Not someday, not eventually, but soon. Make this official. Make yourself and your cousins and Lucia into a real family, legally. Let me protect you and provide for you and love you for the rest of our lives." "Yes," Maya said without hesitation. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They married 6 weeks later in a small ceremony at the estate, surrounded by Nico's family and Maya's cousins and baby Lucia as flower girl. Nona cried through the entire ceremony, happy to see her grandson find love again. And when Nico slipped the ring onto Maya's finger and kissed her as his wife, Maya felt like her life had finally come full circle, from tragedy and loss to love and family and belonging. Share this video if you believe in love that grows from trust and shared purpose. If you believe that family isn't always about blood, but about who chooses to stand by you, because Maya and Nico proved that sometimes the most unlikely people create the most beautiful families. The years that followed weren't perfect because no life is, but they were rich with love and purpose. Maya officially adopted her cousins, giving them the stability and family they needed. She helped Nico navigate the gradual transition of the family business toward legitimate enterprises, her outside perspective and social work background proving invaluable. She became not just his wife, but his advisor, the person he trusted most with both business and family decisions. Lucia grew into a bright, loving child who called Maya Mama and adored her older cousins. And when their second child was born, a son they named after Maya's father, the family felt complete in a way that healed old wounds for both of them. Nico never completely left his old life behind because some things can't be undone. But he worked tirelessly to ensure his children would have choices he never had, that they could choose legitimate paths if they wanted. And Maya, the waitress who had once just been trying to survive, became the heart of the Valentino family, the one everyone turned to for wisdom and kindness and unconditional love. If there's a lesson in this story, it's this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is help someone when they're struggling, even if logic says you shouldn't get involved. Sometimes extending kindness to the unlikeliest person opens doors you never imagined. Maya could have stayed silent that day in the restaurant, could have let someone else deal with the crying baby and the terrified mob boss, but she chose to help, chose to trust her instincts over her fear. And that single choice led to a life filled with more love and purpose than she'd ever dreamed possible. So the next time you see someone struggling, someone who needs help even if they seem dangerous or complicated or wrong, remember Maya. Remember that beneath reputation and circumstances are just humans trying their best. And sometimes those humans become your family, your love, your entire world. Leave a comment telling me what your favorite moment was in the story. And if you believe in helping others, even when it's inconvenient or scary, give this video a like. Because Maya proved that maternal instinct and kindness can change everything. That love can bloom in the most unlikely circumstances. And that families are built not just through blood, but through choice and commitment and unwavering care. This was the story of Maya Chun and Nico Valentino and baby Lucia. The story of how a crying infant brought together a struggling waitress and a dangerous man and created a family neither expected but both desperately needed. Until the next story on Karma Stories, remember, one act of kindness can change your entire life. One moment of bravery can lead to love you never imagined. Choose kindness, choose courage, choose love.